Hello students, today we are going to start the next topic, that is statistics. Now you have already learned some concepts regarding to the statistics in your previous class. So this topic is there for your 9th standard and as well as for your 10th standard. So whatever concepts you are going to learn in 9th standard, in 10th standard, some further formulas you will be deriving. Before proceeding to what exactly is there in this topic, let us first try to see what is the meaning of statistics. Yes, as you can see, there are many things around us which are making use of the statistics. So, a simple example could be whatever is the information regarding your class, like the information regarding your regarding the weight of the students or the height of the students, or if you go in a broader view, it could be also analyzing the profit of the company over certain period of years. So, for making all of this information more accessible or more easily understandable, we make use of statistics. Okay, so if I try to define statistics, statistics could be said as it is an collection, then organization, then analysis, and then interpretation of data. Okay, meaning first of all we will be collecting the data. Now as you know, if I have just the information of the weight of the students of a certain class, but if a question is asked like how many students are there whose weight is above 45 kg or say 40 kg, so until and unless I arrange that data in a proper way, or until and unless I organize the data in a proper way, it will not be helpful for me to use that data accurately. Yes. So hence after collection you have to organize the data. Yes. After organization you will do analysis of the data, as in how many students are there. Maybe you will be counting it, and then after that interpretation, as in I can say suppose around 50% of the students of my class are having the weight which is above 40 kg. So that is the interpretation of the data. Okay, so if I try to tell it in an another way, it would be statistics is nothing but what we use to summarize the data. Okay, so the tool we use to summarize the data so that the information available with us becomes more meaningful and more readable. Okay, so summarizing the data so as to make the information more useful or readable. So this is what the statistics is. Yes. So you already know, I have just made a quick recap of what is in statistics. Further, now whatever data you are collecting, now as you know, there is a lot of data present around us, isn't it? So whatever data you are collecting, that data, if you are not just organizing it and you have just collected the information, that data is called as raw data. Raw, as you know the meaning of the word raw. Yes, so raw data, the facts and figures which you are collecting for any specific purpose. Yes, suppose I wanted to collect the data of the weight of the students. Definitely, I will be calculating the weight of each and every student, or I will be finding each weight of each student. I will not be finding the height of the students. If I am supposed to find the weight, or if I wanted the information regarding the weight of the students, why will I find the height, isn't it? So similarly, the raw data would be the collection of facts and figures for some specific purpose, isn't it? Because I want to organize the data so that I should be knowing how many students are actually needing the supplements and everything, so that I am collecting the data. So that is my purpose, and hence such data is called as raw data. Okay, so facts and figures collected for some specific purpose are called as raw data. Okay, so until and unless you arrange the raw data in a proper way, or until and unless you organize it in a proper way, this data is actually not very useful for us. Okay, so that's where the statistics comes into picture. So after raw data, then what comes next? Suppose the next thing is I wanted to find the range of the data. Okay, meaning in what range all the weight of the students fall, isn't it? So for that, what should I be knowing? I should be knowing the highest weight of the student of the class. Okay, let us suppose the weight of the student, the highest weight is 50 kg, whereas I should also be knowing the lowest weight of the student of the class. Suppose the lowest weight is 30 kg. I'm just taking an example. Okay, so if I have to find the range of the data, meaning in what bracket all the weight of the students fall, how will I calculate? The range of the data is given by highest value minus lowest value. Okay, so since my highest value is 50 whereas my lowest is 30, so the bracket is 20. It means nobody will have a weight less than 30 whereas nobody will have a weight greater than 50. All the weight of the students will fall in this bracket 50 to 30, and hence the range of the data is said to be 20. Okay, further there are two more definitions. First one is primary data. Now what is meant by primary? From the name also you can understand a little bit. Primary means the first source. Yes, now if I want to collect the information regarding the weight of the students of my class, if I myself have if my I myself are calling each and every students and I am trying to write down their weights by the weighing machine or something, so then who is the person who is actually finding the information? Myself. Okay, so then the data obtained accordingly is called as primary data. So if I try to tell in a definition, the data collected by the investigator himself. Investigator, I wanted that data for some specific purpose, and I myself collecting the data is the investigator, isn't it? So the data collected by the investigator himself is called as primary data. Whereas, what is meant by secondary data? Suppose instead of me finding the weight of each and every students, if there is an information already recorded during the admission of the students, so there will be a record book wherein the weight of all the students are recorded. So what I will do, I will just go and bring that record book, and from that I will take down all the weight of the students. Now, did I myself find out the data? No, I took the data from some other source which has already collected that information. So such data which is collected is known as secondary data. Okay, so the data obtained or the data collected which was already stored or which was already collected by some another source is called as secondary data. Okay, so statistics, raw data, primary data, secondary data, and then the range. Further, my the next question is, how many students are having the weight 40 kg? Okay, so in my strength of the class I have to find how many students are having the weight 40 kg. So what I will be doing, first of all, suppose if I collect the weight of all the students. Okay, suppose 30, 35, then 32, then again 30, then 31, 40, 41, 40, 43, 45, again 30, then 32, further again 40, and say 49 and 50. I am just taking a random example. Okay, so I wanted to know how many students are having the weight 40 kg. Okay, so what I will do, in my given observation set I will just count down for how many times the number 40 is present. So 1, 2, 3. So what will be the answer? There are 3 students in the class whose weight is 40 kg, isn't it? And this 3 is called as frequency of 40. Only 40, yeah? Okay. Now what is meant by frequency? The number of times an observation is repeated. Aren't these all the observations? Yes, or the data, you can also call it as an observations. So the number of times an observation is repeated is termed as frequency. Okay, so in this case the frequency of 40 is 3, right? So that is what the definition of frequency is. Now as you can see, this is an just an whatever are the values I have just written it in order. Okay, so or in a line, the first student's weight, second student's weight. But when I have to find any answer for any question, I have to go through the data again and again, isn't it? For example, my next question is how many students are having 30 kg weight? So again, I will be counting. Yes, isn't it a very lengthy process? What if I organize this data in such a way that every time I don't need to go through all the observation, and just with the help of the organization of the data, I could tell it? Yes, what it could be done? Instead of writing it like this, what if I made a table for this? Okay, so what is the lowest one? You have to write the observations in an ascending or descending order, but just always maintain the order. So the lowest weight is 30, the next one is 31. Are there any numbers for 32? Yes, 32. There isn't any 33. 34 is also not there. 35 is there. 36, 37, 38, 39. Again 40 is there. 41 is there. 42, no. 43 is there. 44 is not there, and 49 and 50. Okay, now these are the weight of the students, also called as observations or data, whereas here I will make the column frequency, which will tell me the number of students which are having the respective weights. So how many students are having the weight 30? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 3. 31, 1. 32, 1, 2. 35, 1. 40, just now we have calculated 3, so 1, 2 and 3. Then 41, there is a single one, whereas 43, again there is a 1. Okay, 49 I have missed, I will write it. 45, 49 and 50. 45, 1 person. 49, 1 and 51. Okay, so now if anybody asks me any question regarding the weight, so I can tell very quickly because I have the data which is organized properly. For example, if I question is asked how many students are having the weight less than 40 kg, directly I will add the values of the weights which are less than 40. So 1 plus 2 3 plus 1 4 and plus 3 7. Okay, isn't it? So it becomes very quicker until if I used to find each and if I used to go by the observation each and every time. Yes, hence the organization of the data in this form is nothing but frequency distribution table. So as we have seen, a frequency distribution table is a table which tells us how the frequency is distributed among various observations. Okay, so the table which we have seen, wherein I had taken the weight of the students and the number of students falling in that bracket. So starting with 30, 31, 32, then 35, 40 and so on, and I had written here numbers, suppose 2, 1, 3, 2, 3. So such a table which shows how the frequency is distributed is called as frequency distribution table. Now here, since the number of observations were very less, so it was very feasible to make a table wherein I had written the weight of each and every student and I have made a table. But what if there are more number of observations, or the strength of the student is, say suppose 100, or I am combining 2 3 classes and together I am finding the data of the number of weight of the students. Okay, so in that case I cannot make that 100 rows, neither can I make a number of rows. Say even if there are some weights which are being repeated, still there will be minimum 50 to 60 rows. Okay, so it is not feasible to make a table of so many rows. In that case, what is the solution? In that case, instead of writing each observations individually, we can group the observations together and then we can make the table. Okay, so for example, now instead of writing 30, 31 and so on, I will write 30 to 34. The students whose weight is falling in this bracket, I will count them and I will write it in front of it. So these are the weight of the students and these are the number of students, also called as frequency. Okay, similarly the students who are falling in the bracket 35 to 39, say suppose 20, again 40 to 44, suppose 15, then 45 to 49, say 16, and then 50 to 55, say again 20. Okay, so such organization of data in groups is called as grouped frequency distribution table. And when do we use it? When the number of observations are more. Okay, so the first one in which the data was written individually, it is called as ungrouped or also discrete frequency distribution table, whereas when you are making the groups, it is called as grouped frequency distribution table. Grouped frequency distribution table. Okay, further, if I have to explain the terms included in it, the brackets which we have made or the groups which we have made are called as classes, of that frequency distribution table. So 30 to 34 is one class, 35 to 39 is another class, and so on. The lower value of each class is called as lower limit. All the classes, whatever are the lower values, are called as lower limit, whereas the upper values are called as upper limits. Okay, so these are all the lower limits of that respective classes, and these are all the upper limits of that respective classes. Next one is class size, or also said to be class width or class interval. Okay, so what is the size of the class? How do you calculate or how do you find? It is very easy, depending upon the name. Upper limit minus lower limit. Whatever is the upper limit, from that if you subtract the lower limit, the value you are getting will tell you what is the size of the class. Here 34 minus 30, which gives me 4, so size of the class is 4. Similarly here also 4 4 4. It is not necessary that the classes will be same, the class size will be same for all the classes. It might happen that some classes are having class width 4, whereas some classes can have some another class width, so that is also okay. So the condition says is you are going to just make the groups. It is not necessary the classes size or the class width has to be same. So what is the class size then? The upper limit minus lower limit. If you subtract lower limit from the upper limit, the value you are getting will tell you the class size. Okay, now the next question is, what if a student is having the weight 34.5? As I have told, the students falling in this bracket are written here, the number of students. So the student from 31 to 30 to 34 weight, we are writing the number here. What if a student is having weight 34.5? As you can see, the next class starts from 35 and the previous class ends at 34. It means if a student is falling between 34 and 35, where will I represent him? Okay, for such problems, what we are doing, we are changing the classes or we are changing the values of the classes in such a way that wherever the upper value ends, the next value starts. Wherever the upper limit ends, the lower limit of next class starts. So what will happen, that any student which is falling or which is having any weight, so you can directly write it in the respective classes. Okay, because when you are dealing with an example wherein the frequencies or the classes are the whole numbers. Okay, for example, suppose I making a table, the number of accidents occurred for a month. Okay, so in that case the accident will be either 1 2 or 3. It cannot be a decimal, but here the weight can be in decimal also. For such decimal values, what I want, that my classes should be continuous. Wherever the upper class ends, the next class should start. So such representation of classes is called as continuous grouped frequency distribution table. So my new classes will be now 35, 40, 45, 50 and 55. So where 35 ends, the next class begins with 35. So 34.5 weight of the students will be included in this class. So such representation is called as continuous frequency distribution tables, continuous and also grouped. And the previous example which I had written, that was discontinuous, wherein the upper limit of previous class was not equal to lower limit of the next class. Okay, so they were the discontinuous classes and these are the continuous classes. But what if a student is having the weight 35? Will it be included in this bracket or in this bracket? Yes, so as you can see, both the brackets are having 35 at. So in which bracket I will add him? Yes. So whenever the classes are continuous, the value, upper limit value, is not included in that class, but it is included in the next class. Meaning, if a student is having weight 35, he will not be counted in this class, but he will be counted in next class. Similarly, a student having weight 40, he will be counted in this class. 45 counted in this class, meaning the upper limit values are excluded from that class. Only in case of continuous classes. Because since it's continuous, so that value will be coming for the next class as a lower limit. So you will count that student in the next class. But the upper limit values are not included in that respective classes. Okay, so this is an example of a grouped frequency distribution table. One is continuous and another is continuous, and this is an example of ungrouped or discontinuous. We make use of this frequency distribution table wherever the data is very huge.